Hello and welcome to the weekly movie review. Today we're going to be reviewing My Jaws, newest movie. They're on a great streak lately, making a lot of great movies. So we're going to be reviewing the Ostra something effect. The name doesn't matter, but I've seen a lot of reviews lately and it's looking good. Everyone's liking it. But something I haven't been talking about is the opening. Oh, the opening was amazing. See, I want to talk about how it was different, similar, and how it made me feel, you know? That opening was just great. So I want to start by saying, you know, the characters and the way the story was told in a non-linear form I really liked. It's clear that the director wanted to go for a new style. And by having this non-linear form and having the beginning, the opening, actually be in between the second and the third act of the movie, was quite effective. It created this sense of, I don't know, it just drew the audience in and it got me quite intrigued. And it's clear that the director was trying to get a similar effect to Christopher Nolan does when he films Inception and Memento. The opening isn't actually the opening, it's in fact the end of the film, or somewhere in between the end and the beginning of the film. And I think that's quite, it's not a new technique, but it's definitely not used often. And it's not a typical convention of the thriller genre, and I'm quite glad that it's being used here. It's quite effective. The lighting's really interesting. The low-key lighting, which is typical to a lot of thriller movies, but in this we get something a bit different. I mean, I really like the low-key lighting, but the sunlight which shines through is quite good. It's been like color graded, so the light doesn't really, of course it's light, it's gonna shine, but it shines with a red tint, and it's quite interesting. Normally with the low-key lighting we see like a dark alleyway or a just a dark street with a light on, and it's quite effective to create this dark, eerie setting. But James Edmonds, director of the Something effect, has done something quite different. He's got the low-key lighting, but he's put it in a house, a glamorous person's house. It has quite glamorous lifestyle, and it challenges the typical form. As we see, instead of the lamp, we sort of see the sun, and it sort of represents the hope. And it challenges the conventional, in fact it develops the conventional use of low-key lighting and how we normally see it. We also see typical things like black and white lighting or black and white effects in the nightmare/trance sequence. It's quite typical for a thriller to use these like flashback scenes and stuff like that. It's not new, but it is quite effective, and I quite like that. But something I do like as well is how there's no actual diegetic sound in the opening. It's all non-diegetic sound, and it's quite interesting how we see the character develop through the opening. However, there's just no sound, there's no footsteps, there's no heart beating, which is really typical of a thriller movie. We in fact just see him, James Alderson, he's depressed, he's suicidal, and we have the calm piano music plays over the top. It's quite representative of the character's innocence and naiveness, and I really like that. It's different to what I've seen in the past, because normally you don't see any movie clips where the diegetic sound is completely removed, but this is quite different, and I quite like that. I also like the mise en scene. There's the top secret markings all over the place. It reminds me of like Seven's opening, because in Seven, at the opening we see these really short, quick cuts of the killer's plans and whatever, and it's quite effective how it's used. I quite like the short bursts of quick cuts and close-ups. Yeah, so it's similar to Seven in that way, because we are given these short snippets of these top secret things, and gives the audience an idea of what's going on. It gives the audience something to expect, as well as that the titles. They're nothing unique, very similar to Godzilla's titles, but they are used in an effective way, which makes sense to the story. Something else is like the colour. I quite like on the top secret things, it's like black top secret, and it's a red letter. Really unique to a movie to see like these. It's not very unique to see these colours used like this, but in movies like Jaws, where before the shark attacks, we'll see you'll see the red colours in the background being used to represent or foreshadow something that's going to happen. And there we see the note, which obviously has the amount of people he's killed, and it foreshadows this violence that he's going to create. Also reminds me a lot of the Imitation Game in some ways, as in that scene with Benedict Cumberbatch, as he's crying, he's trying to deal with depression, he's trying to deal with all the other stuff. It's quite interesting how we see the character's demise from joining the government, trying to do something good, but then end up doing something that's in fact really bad. So it's similar in that way to the Imitation Game. I think that it puts the idea on its head a little bit though, as we see that he's an anti-hero, unlike Imitation Game where he's more of a solid protagonist. I think it's a clear point of inspiration, the Imitation Game, as we see these two different directors deal with a similar situation. It's quite interesting. See, in one we see him crying, he's being helped by a friend in the Imitation Game, but in the Ostra Something Effect, we see him being emotionally depressed and then eventually coming to suicidal thoughts. It's quite interesting. Finally, I'd like to talk about the protagonist role in the movie. Like I said earlier, he's a anti-hero, but it's quite interesting how he has one major fault, and it reminds me of like a tragedy story in a way, similar to like in thrillers. There's a lot of this where the character has one overarching major fault, and we can see this as he is an anti-hero. He's the protagonist, but he's not a good person. He has not done good things, and I think it's a good technique which is used a lot in thrillers. It's not been used effectively here. The camera shots, I feel like I've been using a conventional form, but I like the way it has been filmed, and by that I mean like the wide angles and the way the camera follows the character through the scene. A lot of scenes are shot and it's just a still camera most of the time, just showing the scene or his face, close up of his face, the character's face. But they decided to film it in a way where the camera just followed all the time the character, which I quite liked. It allows us to become like emotionally attached with them straight away. It's quite unique. And unlike a lot of thrillers, we don't see a lot of quick cuts here. A lot of long takes, it's slow paced, unlike some thrillers which their main selling point is their action or violence. We see something quite different here, which is unique. I really feel like the director wanted to capture the character's emotion, and that's why he decided to use like the long takes, the lighting which he did. All that kind of stuff is really it challenges the conventional forms of what we expect. Lastly, just touch on the titles. Titles are really good. I like them, and how they're similar to Godzilla. Godzilla is obviously a different movie in a lot of ways, but the thriller genre is still prominent there. And here, of course, we see the character being part of the government, part of this blacklist sort of secret operation, and it fits that it's being highlighted out. And while it's a technique that isn't used a lot, I can only think of one thing for using Godzilla. It is an interesting technique, and I really like it. And I like how the director has developed it's clearly been inspired by Godzilla and that sort of blacklist operation sort of stuff. And it's really must have inspired the director. Anyway, thank you for watching the weekly movie review, and goodbye.